What is up, everybody? RandomRandomMan here, bringing you my review for the 2016 version of Ghostbusters. Now, the plot is, of course, based on the original property first brought to film in 1984 by director Ivan Reitman, as it follows two scientists played by Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy, an electrical engineer played by Kate McKinnon, and a subway line worker played by Leslie Jones, as they all discover paranormal activity involving ghosts around New York City. In terms of my enjoyment of the first two films, while I would not say that I'm a diehard fan of this property, I do clearly own these two on Blu-ray, and I will admit that the first film is a bona fide comedic classic, and I even enjoy the second one. Yeah, it's not as good as the first. The biggest problem would be that it borrowed way too much from the original film, but I still found it to be quite entertaining. So going into this latest reboot, I was well aware, of course, of the massive controversy that has marred this movie, but I went into this film optimistic that it would be enjoyable, as I did really like Paul Feig's prior film, Bridesmaids, which is a freaking hilarious movie in my opinion, and I enjoy these four women that have been cast in the roles of the Ghostbusters. With our four leads, I found that Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy were just fine in this movie. I really enjoyed them in Bridesmaids, again, of course, directed by Paul Feig also, and that's why I mostly preferred them in that film compared to this one, as I've seen them be funny in other movies or any other property aside from this film. The two surprises, in my opinion, came in the form of Leslie Jones and Kate McKinnon. Leslie Jones I find to be funny too, and I was surprised that she actually had a little bit more levity with her character, as the trailers did portray her to just be Leslie Jones and her loud self like she is in SNL, but she definitely had some more things to offer. And Kate McKinnon, I find her to be hilarious on SNL too, but for me, she was on and off throughout this film. At times, she was definitely quirky, likably quirky, but also she was relatively annoying during some sequences of the movie and just seemed like she was playing that specific character that is just really weird for weirdness' sake. However, the other standout member of this film, for positivity purposes, is Chris Hemsworth as the dim-witted but handsome receptionist for the Ghostbusters. I was laughing a lot when he was on screen, just for his sheer charisma. The villain of this film, however, goes into the biggest problem I do have with this film involving the plot. The main villain of the movie is played by Neil Casey, and he is the definition of weak. Little motivation as to what he is doing involved with all the ghosts and going up against the Ghostbusters, and I found him to just be laughably bad at times. Even with the terrible villain's integration into the actual plot, the movie had, without a doubt, an incredibly daunting task to try to escape the shadow of the 1984 film that originated this film's very existence. And sadly, it is wildly uninspired. Too many times this movie tries to call back to the 1984 film by having subtle references everywhere, or even having cameos from the original cast. Now, some of these cameos range from being cringeworthy or subtly welcome. My favorite cameo was the very subtle one that tributed the late great Harold Ramis, but the one that had me cringing in my seat involved an elongated one involving Bill Murray and what his role is in this film. Because again, this movie is a straight reboot of the original movie. It's a new timeline in which the original Ghostbusters never even existed. The movie was also inconsistent just in its tone simply. It tried being dramatic too many times when it was also trying to be funny, because there are constant jokes just shown left and right that try to keep your interest throughout the film. And I will say, in terms of it being a comedy, for every joke that was really trying to make me laugh, there was another one around the corner that fell flat. Only a couple of times I genuinely laughed really hard, but also there were jokes that I simply groaned at as they tried too hard. The movie's hit and miss humor also led to it dragging at times, with the pacing being thrown all over the place too, just like with its comedy, as during certain sequences I was entertained genuinely, but other times I felt it become a bore at an hour and 45 minutes. Now, with the visual look of this film too, technical merits are also hit and miss. The very thing that made this movie even stand out was that it tried to be modernized, also with having female Ghostbusters at the helm, but at times the effects look genuinely fake. With that being said though, some of the action actually looked pretty nice, and my favorite sequence of the movie was one towards the end where all the Ghostbusters geared up and fought together. Overall, this movie really didn't do much to me in having an enjoyment factor, and it's a shame because I went into this film with open arms wanting to really enjoy it with the talented cast and director. And that's the thing, I've seen the people involved with this film do a lot better prior to this film. I just wish that there was a lot more levity to be had with a movie like this and feel like it was warranted so that we can all enjoy it instead of it being associated with the controversy leading up to its release. I personally don't think it was the disaster that the internet initially expected it to be upon the first photos and trailers for this movie, but with that being said, I can't exactly give it a solid recommendation either because there are just a lot of problems that hold it back, and it's nothing more to me than just being mediocre. My final verdict for Ghostbusters is 2.5 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of Ghostbusters, subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.